second and really look at the Republican Party, you get a clear sense of what they despise, like transgender kids and books about slavery and segregation and easy access to voting. And if you want a good sense of what they stand for, well, just take a look at the leader of their party. That guy has successfully cheated on his taxes and his wife. He's been credibly accused of sexual assault by multiple women and paid a former adult film star 6 figures to stay quiet about his minuscule assets. And on Monday, a federal judge concluded that he attempted to obstruct Congress on January 6th, which is a crime. Yesterday, we also got a sense of how far he would go to cover up that crime when the Washington Post and CBS reported that the Trump White House failed to provide an honest accounting of who Trump spoke to during a crucial 7-hour window of time on January 6th, as his supporters stormed the Capitol and his congressional cabal objected to the fair election he lost. But if you're convinced that Republicans are experts at, like, QAnon trolling, oh, don't be so sure. Behold, Hitler's bunker enthusiast and resident tree puncher, Madison Cawthorn. He tried to own, the R's? But was forced to have a chat with absentee dad Kevin after Cawthorn pushed stories about his congressional colleagues having cocaine orgies, only to have Kevin say, wait there now, son, you're supposed to be owning the libs. And saying Cawthorn admitted to exaggerating, the cocaine orgies. I guess McCarthy has no problem with some members of his caucus attending white nationalist rallies, but tales about in-house cocaine orgies? Well, that's a bridge too far. Joining me now, Jill Wine-Banks, former assistant Watergate special prosecutor and co-host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast, and Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University and host of the Slate podcast, A Word with Jason Johnson. Now, before we get to the Cawthorn mess, because, we're going to get to the Cawthorn mess, let me just go back for a second to Jill Wine-Banks. We're going to start this with some dignity here. Justice Department, I have this story here that my team printed out for me about the Justice Department supposedly expanding the scope of their probe on January 6th. They're saying in the past 2 months, a federal grand jury in Washington has issued subpoena requests to some officials in former President Donald Trump's orbit who assisted in planning, funding, and executing the January 6th rally. I am skeptical, I'll be honest with you, Jill, because I have seen complete inertia from the DOJ. I'm skeptical. Are you?
Unfortunately, Joy, I am skeptical. I am of the belief that it could no longer be possible that a serious investigation is taking place because there has not been a word leaked. And at this point, I'm not expecting the Attorney General or any U.S. attorney to come forward and say, because that would be completely improper. It would be what Comey did. It's horrible. But some defense lawyer would have gone to court to say, my client isn't going to testify, or I'm not turning over these documents. It just isn't credible anymore. So I was hoping I'd get to talk with you about all the other stuff with Cawthorn, too. I can get down in the dirt for that one.
We're going to let you in on this, sister. I'm not going to leave you out of that. You're getting in that, too. But I'm going to go to Jason real quick on this, because here's the thing. What I've seen and what this story said to me is that they are still repeating that, yes, they're looking at Enrique Tarrio and the Proud Boys, and they're looking at just a conspiracy, but only the violent actors. And then when they say, well, people who planned it, I don't believe for 2 seconds that anyone anywhere near Trump is a part of that. It just seems to me that they think that they can get by with just indicting the grunts, but never get to the planners. That's how I see it. How do you?
Joy, you're exactly right. We've seen inertia, we've seen ineptitude, we've seen cowardice from Merrick Garland's DOJ. At this point, the DOJ, the bat signal has burned a hole in the clouds, and no one has responded, right? Like, no one has shown up to really do anything one way or another. And the idea that we're going to get justice in this country, the idea that we'll get to the bottom of the January 6th insurrection by picking up a bunch of corner boys, but Stringer is still tweeting from Florida, that is the problem that we're seeing here. I am disgusted, disappointed, and ultimately concerned because their failure to do anything in the last year, almost year and a half now, from the insurrection, it becomes all the more dire as we move into the fall if Republicans take over the House.
It feels like Donald Trump might actually be above the law. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, Jill. I mean, this man has gotten away with tax evasion. New York stood down. It looks like the DOJ is standing down. What is it about this one person and everyone close to him that they do feel like they are above the law?
He has got more than Teflon than anybody I know. It is inconceivable to me that he has gotten away with all of the things, when the campaign was still going, I thought that the statement about grabbing something would have been the end of the candidacy. But it didn't bother anybody. And so it is very troubling that this continues on. I have been working on a piece that is arguing that if we, during Watergate, had indicted Nixon, maybe it would have set a precedent that would have allowed prosecutors to be brave enough. And it shouldn't take any bravery. It takes facts, which we're all seeing. I see the facts. There's enough there for an indictment. I 100%. Don't think that there's any way to avoid it, and that it is far worse politically to do nothing than to bring an indictment.
It is political. Okay, let's move on. And speaking of, you mentioned the grabbing folks by the undercarriage. Let's go to Madison Cawthorn, who apparently was invited to grab some undercarriages, per him. Let me read what he said. This is what Madison Cawthorn claimed. He said, the sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington where the average age is probably 60 or 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them I've looked up to throughout my life, meaning there are Republicans, and all of a sudden you get invited to, oh, hey, we're going to a kind of sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just invite me to come to? And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading in the movement to try to remove addiction in our country. Then you watch them do a key bump of cocaine. Merriam-Webster had to literally issue an explanation of what a key bump of cocaine is. Because if you don't do cocaine, you generally don't know the term key bump of cocaine. I'm going to go ahead and let you speak, Jason, and start this off before we let Jill comment on this. Kevin McCarthy finally found something unacceptable to him. He didn't care if you go to a white nationalist rally, you go to a Klan rally. He doesn't care. But he's like, you said in-house we're having orgies with cocaine. Your thoughts?
Look, as far as Kevin McCarthy is concerned, the only white lines we're happy with are the ones that go into MAGA rallies, right? Like, we can't talk about the other ones. Look, this is, I'm not shocked by this, because Madison Cawthorn seems like the guy in high school who's always bragging about the girlfriend at the other school that he has that you just haven't seen. Like, remember, this is the same guy who says, I was bringing weapons in during the insurrection, and I'm at these wild parties and everything else like that. Matt Gaetz isn't calling him to come hang out. Madison Cawthorn ain't in the cool club. So I think he was probably lying about this. Not to say that there aren't members who may engage in this behavior, but his propensity for running his mouth and exaggerating and conflating what may be stories versus what he actually experiences is a problem for the Republican Party. I'm not surprised that he's been shut down. I'm not surprised that some people are engaging in this activity. I don't think he's getting the phone calls.
I'm sorry, but Jill, listen, if he's not being invited out with Matt Gaetz, it's because he's afraid that he looks so young that he might be competing for the 17-year-olds. Matt Gaetz don't want no competition for the high school girls. So I don't believe, listen, and my thing is, I am no longer ready to listen to anything Kevin has to say. Kevin claims that he's admitted to exaggerating. That's what he says. That's Kevin's story. Why should we believe that? As a former prosecutor, don't you just want Madison, Jill, to just give us the names? I want the names of the men who are at these orgies doing key bumps of cocaine. Don't you?
If I were a prosecutor in Washington, D.C., I would certainly be wanting to talk to him, because he apparently knows about crimes. The sex orgies, well, are they Matt Gaetz type, where there are young girls? That's illegal. If they're adults, well, maybe not. But cocaine is clearly illegal. I remember when the mayor of Washington, D.C. got indicted, went to jail for cocaine. So why not members of Congress? And the interesting thing is, let's focus on, it's clearly Republicans he's talking about, because no Democrat is inviting him anywhere. So it has to be, and he also said he respected them, he looked up to them. Well, he didn't look up to any Democrats ever. So it's just more of the ridiculous comments of Ted Cruz that you've had on. It's absurd. And the people on the other side.
Hashtag I believe Madison. I believe Madison should trend. Jill, what's your pin today?
My pin is in honor of Ukraine. It is a sunflower, which is one of their biggest products, sunflower oil. And I'm supporting them in any way that I can and sending them my love and my support and encouragement. So I'm going to wear a Ukraine pin until this mess is over.
We are with you on that. Thank you, my friends. I appreciate you both. Jill Wine-Banks, Jason Johnson. I believe Madison. Just going to leave it there. Up next, thank you both very much.